The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is wrapping up a visit in Beijing aimed at easing tensions between the two countries. He's been meeting with his counterpart Wang Yi as well as President Xi Jinping, underscoring the importance of continuing dialogue amid a long list of differences. Well, these include Taiwan and the South China Sea, trade, as well as China's support for Russia. Let's take a listen now to Blinken speaking earlier.
In my discussions today, I reiterated our serious concern about the PRC providing components that are powering Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. China is the top supplier of machine tools, microelectronics, nitrocellulose, which is critical to making munitions and rocket propellants, and other dual-use items that Moscow is using to ramp up its defense industrial base. A defense industrial base that is churning out rockets, drones, tanks, and other weapons that President Putin is using to invade a sovereign country, to demolish its power grid and other civilian infrastructure, to kill innocent children, women, and men.
Well, for more on the visit, I'm joined by our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons, here on set. Hi, Rob.
Hi.
Let's begin with Washington's complaints about some of Beijing's decisions. One of these is, of course, China's continued support for Russia amid its war in Ukraine.
Yeah, well, we just heard Antony Blinken there. He didn't pull any of his punches, that's for sure. And he made clear where the main areas of contention lie as far as the United States are concerned. The supply of machine tools, microelectronics, nitrocellulose for munitions, and rocket propellant, all of which he said is powering the Russian military-industrial complex and making life difficult for Ukrainians defending their country in the war. Russia would struggle to sustain its assault on Ukraine, he said, without China's support. China, in effect, he said, was wanting to have its cake and eat it. It wanted, it said, to have better relations with Europe at the same time as supplying weapons to Russia at a time when Russia was involved in a war which was the greatest threat to European security since the end of the Cold War. So basically he was saying to China, make up your mind what it is you want. Do you want a good relationship with the rest of the world, or do you want to have a good relationship with Russia? Because you can't have both given the current context. And there was a warning as well. You know, if China, he said, if China's not prepared to act on this, we are. There will be more sanctions. Sanctions already imposed on over 100 Chinese firms. The threat was that both Europe and the US would impose more sanctions. But he also said, in the same context, conscious, I think, of the fact that he went to China to try and improve relations with China rather than to list a long list of complaints. He pointed out that when the US had asked China back in 2022 to try and have some influence over Russia after Russia had made several threats suggesting that it might be prepared to use nuclear weapons, China had played a really positive role. So he was sort of trying to turn things around to make it sound more positive.
And how did China approach these talks exactly?
Well, I mean, as I was just saying, both sides came to this meeting mostly determined to try and improve relations. Both sides seeing this in the context of pretty sour relations up until the November summit between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping, which went well. Since then, there's been an uptick in the relations. The militaries of the two sides have begun talking to each other again. Tensions over Taiwan have eased. Trade is beginning to improve a bit. But, what the Chinese were saying, I think, is, look, don't see us as a threat. Don't see our development as a threat. See it in a positive light. This is a win-win situation for both countries, which should stabilize relations, improve and help move them forward. Same point made by Wang Yi, the foreign minister, as Xi, that this is a relationship that's been difficult, but which is at a turning point. China is going to continue to develop. The United States has a choice about how it approaches that, with hostility or to move forward with China in a more positive way. But to do that, the United States had to recognize that there are red lines that China will not allow to pass. And these include sovereignty. You mentioned Taiwan in your introduction, but also internal affairs of things like the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, security, the South China Sea, obviously a major concern there. The Indo-Pacific, the Chinese won't be happy about the fact that this bill that just went through the Senate last week, providing $95 billion for Ukraine, Taiwan and Israel, also gave $9 billion to Taiwan. So those are big issues for the Chinese, which they will be very determined to try and to make it clear to the Americans that they've really got to, if they want to improve the relationship, that they've really got to give some sort of way there as well.
All right, France 24's Chief Foreign Editor Rob Parsons, thank you very much for your analysis.